Claire Maxted here, creator of Wild Ginger Running YouTube channel. It's live, it's Wednesday 6:30 p.m. and I am thrilled to say that we have none other than Pennine Way, a record breaker, the new FKT holder. It's Damian Hall, everyone. Woo!
Hello.
We'll have to both clap, Damian, because there's only us two here. Everybody else can virtually clap. So Damian, I've got tons of questions for you tonight, but just first of all, congratulations.
Thanks. It was a lot of fun.
I bet. And how are you feeling just now, like today? What have you been up to?
Well, I feel quite a bit better today. I was quite a wreck over the weekend. True story, the day afterwards, I wore my boxer shorts on the wrong way round all day. I did have trousers on over the top, or shorts, but didn't realise till bedtime.
I thought you got all superhero on us there.
When I got home, my cat ran away from me because of the way I was kind of stumbling towards it. It genuinely thought I was some kind of alien. I did, my feet, as can happen after these things, my feet did sort of swell up quite a lot, and I've had the night sweats as well, which are pretty disgusting.
Oh, it sounds a bit like the menopause.
Maybe it's that. But last night was better, and today I feel quite a lot better. So yeah, all good. They're only things I was expecting. When you do something like this, that is kind of the price. You have really pushed your body, so it's good to respect it and just back off and relax and eat lots of cheesecake. In fact, yesterday I ate half a cheesecake, a proper cheesecake, whole half.
Lovely.
Yeah, it was.
Oh, that sounds amazing. Well, it was 268 miles, so I reckon you burned off a fair few cheesecakes in that. I just want to give you a little taste of who is watching here, because we've got tons of people watching live tonight. We've got Paul Hamilton, who says, "Hi everyone, really looking forward to this." Nigel Barnett says, "Looking forward to this." Philip Haddock says, "Hi everyone, this is going to be a good one." Guy says, "Hi all, looking forward to this as well. What a machine." Alex DeHoto says, "Hey." Guy says he's clapping too at the beginning. Hannah says, "Loving the social media conversation between you and John Kelly," so we'll get to that later. And Vic Knight said he couldn't really miss this. Conrad's watching all the way from Michigan. He says, "Hello Damien." And Abby Norman says, "A major congrats on your incredible achievement. I was hooked watching your dots and the little videos being produced. Always seem to have a smile on your face."
Well, that's very kind. Thank you, everyone. I think there were a few less smiles towards the end, but they're back now.
Yeah, I think you do really well. Like, you're always so chipper on all of these things. It's really great to watch. It's just really fun. And we have got tons of questions here. First, this isn't a question, just Stephen Mackey just says, "Saw him on telly this morning, what a guy."
Yeah, that was strange, going live on television. Apparently there were 1.4 or 1.8 million people watching.
Wow.
It was live on BBC Breakfast, and both me and John were on. And actually, they at the last minute they brought it forward and made it, so I was sort of relaxing there with a cup of tea, just woken up, and then you get a call saying, "Can you go on now?" And you're like, "Whoa!" But it was fine in the end, I think. Although I was sort of pitched a bit as the baddie, because of course, John had gone and broken this record after 31 years, and then I sneak up the week after and break his record. But it was it was good fun and a nice bit of banter, I think.
Yeah. Well, I suppose there is a little bit of this, like, the kind of a rivalry story there that they got to tap into, so that's quite fun. But you and John do seem to be like quite like buddies. Like, he just wrote on Instagram, didn't he, that records are there to be broken, and he sort of suggested that you might do the Barclays or something like that. So I have got a question about that later on. But just like wrapping it right back with a few audience member questions here. Paul Feely just says, "Why the Pennine Way?" So could you just kind of explain what made you choose it?
Yes, absolutely. The Pennine Way is very, very personal to me, actually. I walked it in, I think, 2011, and I'd been commissioned to do a guidebook for it. So I was in a really, I felt really fortunate that had come my way. And I loved hiking it. I loved it. It just felt, I'd lived abroad for most of the decade before, actually. So it really felt it really felt like a really sort of English or British landscape, and these moorlands, and this sort of bleakness, and it helped me kind of fall back in love with Britain, if I'm honest. And it was, really exciting. I loved finding out about the history of the trail as well, especially the links to the mass trespass from 1932, which hopefully most people know about, which is a really important piece of civil disobedience. And so, I produced this guidebook, so it felt quite central to my sort of identity anyway. And then, of course, when the spine race came along, I was just getting into ultra running, and I got quite obsessed with that and loved following it. And then I jumped in on the third year and did the spine race, survived it, and instantly signed up again for the next year, like quite a lot of people do. There are people who have done it 5 or 6 times now. There's just something about it, all that miserable suffering, that people want to do it again.
It's crazy.
And so I've been on the Pennine Way 3 times, and ever since my first FKT, which was in 2016, I ran the Southwest Coast Path, there's always been a sense of what are the next FKTs to do. And that one was always in the conversation, the Pennine Way, but I was always so intimidated by it because, Mike Hartley's time on it obviously stood for 31 years, for good reason. It's not like no one tried in that time. Mike Hartley was a really good athlete. In the 1993 100k European Championships, he was 4th. So, like, genuine speed and talent there. And he really worked hard to get the Pennine Way record, lots of preparation. So it was really intimidating. And I kept putting it off and thinking, oh, well, I got to do that race, so maybe I won't. And then, of course, lockdown came, and it was like, well, there's no excuses left. Also, I did know, I knew John was going for it as well, and we're friends, and we communicated a lot about it, and we even tried to go at the same time, but dates weren't really working. But we shared information and wished each other well and so on. But it's definitely a very personal trail for me.
It's fantastic. We all really enjoyed watching your dot, and I just want to read out some times here because Mike Hartley, obviously, he did it in 1989. He took 2 days, 17 hours and 20 minutes, and then John Kelly did it 8 days before you. He did it the opposite way round, which I want to talk to you about in a moment as well, because presumably it's all uphill, south to north, the way he did it, which is why he's 3 hours slower than you. But he did it in 2 days, 16 hours and 46 minutes, and then you did 2 days, 13 hours, 34 minutes, which is 3 hours quicker than John. And if you want to take it all in hours, it's 61 hours and a half, basically. But you did yours the same way round as Mike Hartley. Do you think that made a difference? Doing it that direction, like? Does it make a difference to the record?
Not really. It depends what other people think, really. I guess most people are interested in what's the fastest time overall, but I think John has a very good claim for he's got the fastest going that way, which is fine. It's an interesting debate. I mean, basically, with these things, normally I'll look at who set the record, what did they do, and Mike went that way. So I phoned him up and asked him why. And he said it was 2 reasons, really. One was simply he'd be running home, so there's that emotional advantage. And also, the Cheviots, which is a section of mountains or very big hills right near the end, you can't get any support up there, and it could be anywhere from sort of 5 to 7 hours. And so it's a big thing to do at the end of the whole run, as people who do the spine race find. It's really challenging. And he felt he wanted to do that early. Made more sense to him, both in sense of terrain, and you don't need so much help early in the run, whereas right at the end you might need more road support, and that made more sense. That made sense to me to do the same. But also for me, because I'd gone north 3 times, I just didn't want to get too bored of the Pennine Way. I wanted to do it a little bit fresh, so it was fun to do it the other way. Is there an advantage? Well, if you look at both mine and John's Strava, our overall ascent is very, very similar. It's about 38,000 foot. I don't know if I was doing it again, I probably would go south again, because I think you just get a lot of the bigger lumps out of the way early. It makes more sense to me, but people can debate which is easier, I suppose. And if John does return and try again and goes that way, I guess we'll see what happens then.
Yeah, I think that would be really interesting. Maybe I should get him on the show and encourage him to run it the other way around and see what happens.
Yes.
That would be really interesting. Cool. Okay, so lots of people have some questions about your training, so it's good that you just took a glass of wine just there, because that nice and relaxed approach there. So Lucy O'Dell says, it's quite a general question, what does his training plan consist of? And then there's some more individual questions about different aspects of it later.
Okay. Well, yeah, I didn't train very differently for this, very differently to how I normally would. I guess this year I am doing less volume than I have in the past, and I'm feeling a bit better for it. But I do put it all on Strava. I guess an average week could be anywhere between kind of 65 to 75 miles. I'm trying to do kind of more quality and work on my running economy. And hopefully that's paying off. So I've been doing, during lockdowns, been great training for me personally, even though I couldn't get to some of the bigger hills till near the end. But then when I get into a sort of race specific block, that's when you get the bigger back-to-back long runs and more mileage. And the long runs become the key run in the week, and sometimes they'll have a tempo section in them, and ideally you do them on the terrain or very similar terrain. So hopefully that roughly answers the question.
Yeah, that's a good summary. I'm just wondering where you do that training, because are you based in Bath still?
Yeah, I'm just outside Bath, so I'm kind of in the Wiltshire Cotswolds, so the Wiltshire Mountains, sorry. So yeah, I don't have big hills here, but I mean, one trick is, a study showed that runners with better running economy were better at going uphill, sort of regardless of how much hill training they'd done. So it's not necessarily going up and down hills. In fact, that may slow you down after a while if you're just going up and down hills all the time. So I would suggest people try and get some leg speed first, and then when it comes to a hill, often that's just going to help you go up the hill a bit more easily. So we can get a bit obsessed with getting invert and stuff, and really I only think about that in the sort of specific phase just before the challenge.
Because you're a coach yourself, and I'll put your website address, I'll try and find it whilst you talk about the next thing. I just wondered, do you have a coach personally as well to help you?
I do at the moment, yeah. I work with David Roach, the American, and actually John Kelly has the same coach.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so he probably had good insight into who he thought might do better. But I was self-coached for 2 years, and that first year was my best ever year, and then the second year was a bit more mixed. But there could be several reasons for that. Maybe I picked the wrong races, and I still, I kind of still set a record on the Paddy Buckley round, so it wasn't terrible or anything. But I just thought it was time to get a little bit of external input, a little bit of someone to swap some ideas with, and he's kind of a mentor to me, to be honest. So he can help also with my own coaching with my own clients. If I'm unsure about something, I can check with him. So yeah, we've got a wonderful relationship, and he fills me full of he just fills you full of belief. That's the nicest thing, actually, that he tells you you're great all the time. And it's lovely. He's a really great guy, actually. I'd really recommend his book to people, Happy Runner.
Oh yeah, I've listened to a podcast of his on the Ginger Runner, and he just exudes kind of joy, and he loves training people. And they were talking about the fact that in the middle of races, if anybody that he's coaching is in that race, or if he's racing and he sees anyone that he's coaching, he just stops and gives them this massive hug, and he just seems like a lovely fellow.
Yes, he really is. But it's not, But then when you press him about the science about something, he does know it too. Like he's not just sort of bluffing. So that's reassuring. He's great. He's a really great guy.
Yeah, he's really awesome. John Gardner actually has a comment here. He says David Roach is highly regarded by ultra runners of all skill levels, from elites to back of the pack. Yeah, that's really cool. But if you would like Damian to be your coach, someone close at home who knows the UK environment, I've just put his website up here. It's www.damianhall.info/coaching. So give that a look if you have reached a bit of a plateau in life, and you need a bit of a kickstart. We've got a more specific question from John Moisey here about, you did mention this just briefly in your training nutshell, but he says, is Damian one for the shorter long run, or is he more old school on the whole long run ethos with bigger efforts than many of the pro runners seem to adopt these days? So yeah, what is your thinking behind how long should a long run be?
Well, what I've been doing this year is often for a lot of the year, a long run was actually only like sort of 16 miles, 18 miles. And the idea there is that hopefully you're still fresh the rest of the week to put in the quality, the quality interval session. And when we do a lot of strides, and hopefully they're going to be quality. But when you reach that specific block for the Pennine Way training, I was doing, I did do a 30-mile run, lots of 25-mile runs, often followed by 20 miles the next day, or 16, or at least a big one, sometimes kind of 3 testing runs in a row. So I think the trick is not to do big long runs all year, because ultimately that's just, after a while, it's just going to tire you out, and most of your running will be unproductive. So it's to think more strategically, or more structured, a more structured approach to when to do the really long ones, because I think a lot of us can fall into the trap of just thinking that being tired is sort of good productive training, and often that isn't really. You're just making yourself tired. So I think it's trying to be clever with being tired.
Yeah. Oh, I think I need you as my coach, Damian. Yeah. Fantastic. And we've got a couple more about individual bits of training here. So Vic Knight, who is actually watching right now, says, did Damian train to prepare for the sleep deprivation?
I didn't. So far, studies show that you can't really train for it. However, what you rely on there, I suppose, is your experience, and obviously the more times you've kind of gone through the night, the less of a surprise it is, both to your body and just your sort of memory bank. So having done the spine a couple of times and quite a few 100-milers now, it's fairly common for me to run all the way through the night. So one night isn't usually a problem at all. The problem is the second night. So I always anticipated that being probably the toughest spell on the Pennine Way, and it probably was actually, in that I was very sleepy and didn't want to carry on. I wanted to lie down. Actually had Nikki Spinks with me, and she wasn't keen on me lying down. So, and at one point she tricked me. I don't like coffee. She tricked me by giving me a coffee bean, saying, "Oh, it doesn't really taste like coffee." And I was very tired, so I was like, "Oh right," and I crunched into it. I was like, "Oh my god, that's disgusting!" So I was spitting it out everywhere, but it did sort of seem to wake me up. So, thanks, Nikki.
Okay, well, she's probably watching, she won't be doing that again. And how much sleep did you actually get then? So did you presumably run through that first night and then get an average of, I don't know, like 2 hours a night, or did you sleep in half-an-hour pockets, or have a big long sleep in the middle? How did it pan out?
So I didn't plot any sort of time for sleeping. My plan was to always just build a buffer, gradually, safely, slowly build a buffer, so that I had some time in the bank, and I expected to need some sleep, but you don't always know exactly when. So in the end, I did have 3 power naps. I had one on the morning of the second day. I lay down for 15 minutes and probably got 10. That afternoon, I lay down for 15 minutes again, but I didn't actually sleep. And then in that evening, I tried one more time, and I lay down for 45 minutes, and I'm pretty sure I did get at least half an hour there. So I think I slept for probably 40 minutes overall over the whole thing.
So 40 minutes in like 2.5 days, basically. That's mad, isn't it? But it kind of doable. Then did you have a really long sleep when you got back?
Oh, well, when I'd finished, yes. I was very tired. Yes. I slept well that night until about 4:30 in the morning, when I woke up wide awake. But luckily there was a cold pizza next to me, so I wolfed that down, which was good.
And half a cheesecake.
Yes. Yes, I've been eating and sleeping ever since.
Well, Hannah Baisley says only half a cheesecake, so she thinks you should have eaten the whole thing.
I'll do that after the show.
Yeah, right in the face. Okay. And John Watts wants to know if you can train mentally. Like, what mental preparation do you do in the lead up to a run of that magnitude, he says.
Yeah, I did a lot of mental training, actually. For the first time, I worked with a sports psychologist. I just thought I've never really properly looked into this side of things. What tactics, what training can I do? And it was really fascinating. So I worked with Dr. Josie Perry. She's got a really good book. I'm pretty sure it's called Performance in Mind. Pretty sure. I'm just seeing if I can see it. No, I can't. Or if she has a website that has some. Maybe her website is Performance in Mind. But if you Google Dr. Josie Perry, you would find her website, and there are some worksheets on there as well. So it's really useful. So we worked on a few things. Goal setting is really important. Having different types of goals. We looked at what's going to be my why? What will how will I stay motivated? And then having sort of visual motivators to remind me why I'm doing it, which really worked. Also clever things like you do a what if sheet. So you think about what are you most frightened of going wrong, and you write it down, and then you say, first of all, what will you do to prevent that happening in the first place? But then what if it does happen? How will you react? And you might do 5 of them. You might do more if you want. And studies have shown that genuinely sort of almost tricks the mind into thinking you've already been in that scenario before if it happens. So what you don't want is I don't know, to be in a fresh scenario, a fresh sort of negative scenario during the challenge, and you have no idea sort of what to do, and I suppose panicking and stressing and wasting time and energy on it when that might not be needed. So, and it just makes you feel calmer about the whole thing anyway. So we did a few other things. It was really really helpful, really helpful.
Brilliant. Well, I've just got her book, a screen grab of her book up on the screen there. It's called Performing Under Pressure, Psychological Strategies for Sporting Success, by Josephine Perry. So if anybody wants to buy it, I'll put a link in the show notes and the video description in the podcast and also in the video. So yeah, thanks for that recommendation, Damian. It sounds really good.
Right. Yeah, it's good, and the book is full of really sort of practical things you can do. It's great.
Fab. And so we've got a question about your gear now, because obviously you're supported by Inov-8, and I've got a lovely picture of you with the shoes somewhere here that I'll put up whilst you're answering the question. So Guy Greatorex in particular is he's a big Inov-8 fan. He wants to know what you think of the shoes, and you were wearing the Terra Ultra G270, and the G is the graphene thing. So yeah, what did you think of those shoes?
Oh, they're rubbish. Don't buy them. Rubbish.
Terrible shoes. Yeah, couldn't run more than 268 miles in them.
I mean, of course, a sponsored athlete is gonna say the shoes are brilliant. But I guess with these, the proof is in the pudding. So they are designed more actually for hard trails, for kind of UTMB type stuff. But I'd taken them on training runs in the Pennines and even in the lakes and the Brecon Beacons. And actually, honestly, they're fantastic. So they are sort of a new version of the other Terra Ultra, which was 260. But they even though the number's higher, they feel lighter. The foam is different, so they're actually. I'm not a big fan of cushioning, but for something like this, you need some. But you really feel the cushioning this time. You really feel like a sort of, and you can see it in videos when it lands on a rock. It does, it really cushions, and you do feel like you're getting energy from it. And then the grip, the rubber's already fantastic. We know that, but the grip is slightly more aggressive this time around. So, the Pennine Way actually it was pretty boggy, pretty muddy. And I didn't slip over once. I mean, I did trip once when I kicked a flagstone, but that's just kind of tiredness. That wasn't the shoe's fault.
I'd blame the shoes if I was you.
On wet rock and so on, it was gripping everywhere. Plus, yeah, the comfort, number one thing for ultras, really. The grip and stuff isn't as important as simply a comfortable shoe, because you don't want foot issues. So yeah, I had no real problems. I did change shoes about halfway, but that was simply because I just had wet feet for 24 hours, and I thought, to have dry feet, if I just change my socks, they'll just get wet again straight away. So I just changed into the same pair, another version of the same pair, and dry shoes, so that dry shoes, dry socks, so I had so I had dry feet for a little while.
But how many times did you do that?
Just once.
Oh, so you've got 2 pairs of that same shoe.
Yeah, and I only swapped once, so I would have happily carried on the same pair if they'd been relatively dry. But yeah, they're really fantastic, and they do work on a lot of different terrain as well. So yeah, I'm a genuine fan.
Fab. Well, Philip Haddock's watching, and he said he's just got some and they're really good. So that's at least 2 people that recommend them. So and so was everything that you wore Inov-8, like every single thing?
Well, yeah, pretty much. I mean, if you're giving me an opportunity to
take us through your kit.
My watch was a Sunto, head torch, Petzl. I've used them for many years. Actually, that's what's great when you're I am sort of sponsored by Petzl, but I used Petzl anyway. They were my favourite torch, so it's nice when you're not being encouraged to use a brand that you haven't really used, you're not sure about. So I've always used Petzl head torches. They've been excellent. What else was I using? I don't know. I had a van kindly lent to me by VW, so thank you to them. And,
cool.
And it is important when you do something like this. Having the van space meant enough space rather than, say, a car. Yeah. Enough space for me to lie down, for example, but also just enough space for my crew to sort all the different foods, have the kit, so they could find stuff quickly. And I think that just made us more efficient.
I've got a nice picture of you sleeping in the van here. There's a lot of kit surrounding you. Okay,
I actually there was a spell where my crew went and had a rest, and someone else with a van, a brilliant guy called Jess, came with a different van. So it could be one or the other.
Yeah, you can't really see the van. There's just like a lot of mess, and then a human being collapsed in it. Could be any old van, but we'll call it the VW. We'll call it that van.
What else did I have? Yeah, they were my main kit items. Of course, you're very lucky on something like this in that I had a brilliant team of pacers, so they were carrying all my spare kit and most of my food and drink. So I was very, very, very lucky there. And I would publicly like to thank all of them and my road crew, because I wouldn't have broken the record without them by any means. They're absolutely amazing. And at the end, towards the end, actually, they were popping up and surprising me with extra aid stations, which is really gives you a boost, even if you didn't really need another cup of tea. It really just puts a smile on your face and puts extra length in your stride, because you think, the guys are still supporting me, they still think I can do it, and that was wonderful, actually.
Oh yeah, I've just put a few photos up just to kind of give people a picture of you passing through villages, being supported by locals and battling wild weather. And then there's a lovely one of you in like really snuggled in a yellow Inov-8 jacket, it's just smiling your head off, and it seems like you're at a checkpoint or something, because you're just stopped there with a load of people around you. So yeah, it looks like you had a whale of a time.
I did. It was a blast.
Gordon Parton has lots of questions. He asked you about the shoes. You talked about the shoes already, about you changed them once into the same pair, the Terra Ultra G270s. He wants to know if you went up a size for that next change of shoes.
No, I didn't. But I did have one more spare pair that were bigger in case I needed to. But I didn't need to.
Yeah. And he's wondering about the nutrition for a run. You mentioned that people were feeding you on the way. What kinds of things, and the coffee bean, obviously, from Nikki. What did you mainly subsist on for this couple of days?
So, in a way, I made things more difficult for myself by pledging not to use any animal products, and that was fairly easy. But what was difficult is I also pledged not to create any plastic waste. And if you think so much of our food comes in plastic, it's actually really difficult. So a bag of crisps and a chocolate bar, there's loads of plastic. Even buying a punnet of grapes or something, usually that's plastic. So that actually was really difficult. It took a lot of research, a lot of emailing companies to check whether they do compostable, biodegradable wrappers, finding these great companies, often very small companies like Outdoor Provisions and Delicious and 33 Fuel, and companies that use biodegradable wrappers, because I really want to try and support those companies that make the effort, because I know they've explained to me, a lot of them, how difficult that is for them. But some of them are willing to be brave and sort of do that, and they know they're doing the right thing by the environment, even if it probably means less profit for now. So those were three of the companies. I will do a post on Instagram, I think. Oh my God, it's vegan was one. I bought a kilogram of sweets from them, and there were two or three more as well. It was a lot of research, but it was worth it in the end. But I suppose I ended up with I started out with peanut, nut butter and banana sandwiches were my kind of go-to food at the beginning. But of course, after a while, you don't really want the nut butter's a bit unpleasant for your mouth when your mouth's a bit dry. So in the middle of the night, Jason Millward, he gave me his hummus and avocado sandwich, and that just flew down. And then the next time I saw my crew, I was like, I need some of them. And they were like, oh, we don't have any avocados. And so they had to go off shopping. But they did, and then from the next day, or at least in my memory, all I ate was hummus and avocado sandwiches. And it's just nice. It's about texture as much as flavor, because after a while you don't really want, say, crisps, or you don't really want sort of sharp or things you have to chew. And also I checked with Renee McGregor, the sports dietitian. On something like this, you're better off having white bread rather than brown. Normally at home I'd eat brown bread, but in this white bread there's less fibre, it goes down more quickly, the energy gets used more quickly. So it's white bread, those sandwiches, and yeah, they just flew down. That was delicious. And lots of tea.
Yes, yeah, we've seen your battles with John Kelly about tea and the correct creation and drinking of tea. so yeah, if you're not following Damian on Instagram yet, and John Kelly, obviously, do give them both a follow, because they're both fairly amusing characters. So lots of people on the live chat are interested in whether you'll do the Berkeley Marathons, but I don't want to talk about it just yet. I want to talk about it because Sally Gilson has asked you the question about that later, so I want to get to that at the end. But Gordon Parton has another question, which kind of ties in really nicely with the nutrition, actually, because I find that really impressive that you did all that research to cut down on your plastic. I just think it's really commendable, and I really like that. I'm really inspired by it, and that's the kind of thing I'd want to do on one of my next little bimbles.
Thank you, Claire, and yes, good luck.
Yeah. So I really, really appreciate that you did that, and that kind of it adds an extra dimension to your run. And so Gordon wants to know, how much rubbish did you collect at the end? Because you and your team collected any rubbish that you found on the way, as well as doing a record. I just think that's really, really commendable. Yes,
and that was kind of the third part of my kind of, I don't know, environmental angle, and that was the easiest part, really. Well, I say that, but if I'm honest, my pacers collected 95% of the rubbish. I never asked them to, but often I would sort of bend down to pick one up, and they'd say, carry on, and pick it up themselves, which was, incredible of them, really. So how much? It looked like at the end, we had maybe about 8 sort of medium-sized bin bags, biodegradable bin bags. So not like a huge black bin liner size, but like the next one down, we had about 8 of those. I wish I'd kind of weighed them or kept them to give people a nice round figure, whether it was 5 kilograms or something. I thought that was...
There's a photo here that I've just put up, and there's kind of 7 or 8 kind of carrier bags, biodegradable carrier bags, like the kind that you'd get in Tesco, like the small kind of carrier bag ones. They look rammed full of litter.
Actually, it was actually up on the hill. It was quite rare to find rubbish. It was, nearer the little towns and the villages, which I guess you'd expect. But yeah, we did our best, and I guess that was fairly easy. I mean, there was a suspicion maybe that John Kelly was, chucking litter behind him as he went to try and slow me down, but I'm sure that's not the case.
yeah, I hadn't thought of that. I'll have to interview him and ask and put that tricky question to him. Well, Gordon said he wants to say massive congratulations to Damian and your crew as well, especially on collecting the rubbish en route. And he has another question as well, is looking back, would you prefer to go the other way round? I know we talked about this a little bit earlier, but would you ever go and try and do the record the other way, or are you kind of, is this the Pennine Way kind of done for you?
Yeah, not really. I'm pretty happy with that run, and it was nice to see it the other way. And yeah, I don't want to go off the Pennine Way really. Like I don't want to be fed up of it. So that was nice to see it the other direction, and I think that is the smartest direction to run it in, really. Yeah, getting all the big hills, a lot of the big hills out of the way in the first half, doing it that way. So yeah, no, I'm happy with that, I think.
Yeah. And Guy has just noticed that you had FFF written on your arm, which I'll just grab the picture up here. He wants to know what that was and what the flag was that you held at the end.
Right. Yes. Well, the FFF was it was fun. It was fun actually. I didn't tell anyone around me what it stood for and let them sort of guess. And obviously the best guess was probably that it was three swear words. People were guessing. Some were getting close, but yeah, that was part of the strategy I worked on with Josie, which was to have something really visible to remind me why I was doing it. So it was simply family, friends, but the friends really meant all the people there helping me. So especially my road crew and pacers. So I was doing it for them. People who are coming out at 2 or 3 in the morning. If they're making that effort for you, you can't be too lazy later on or just quit because your feet hurt or something. They've put in an effort for you, so you've got to repay that. And then thirdly, the third F was for future, so sort of the environmental stuff. And as for the flag, it's the main symbol on the flag is an Extinction Rebellion symbol, an organisation I'm a big fan of, and basically my children made me that flag for my birthday presents last autumn, and I like, so to me it really combines the kind of family with the future stuff. So I had it up in the side of the van so that every time I came to the van I could see it, and that was a reminder, again a visual reminder, why am I doing it, because of that. And then I just grabbed it for the finish line, and I told my kids at home that I showed everyone the flag and everyone clapped. So they seem quite pleased.
And then did they say, "Did you win, Daddy?"
Not exactly. I don't know if they understood, but they seemed happy with the flag thing.
Yeah, no, that's really nice. I love the way that you've tied in everything there, like the family, the friends, and the future. And I just think it's really important that people with a platform like you really just spread the whole message about the planet and the future, and it's really good to see that your whole attempt was actually carbon negative. So I just want to say congratulations for that side of things as well, because I know it's really difficult to build this kind of thing into what is already a stressful occasion.
Yeah, thank you. But it did help because it was why am I doing it, and I had those reminders. So it was almost a I definitely care about those things, but it was definitely a helpful tactic. So but thank you.
Yeah, and I hope, like some of the major media outlets, like the BBC and stuff, I hope they kind of really gave the airtime on that, because I just think it's something that not all, like loads of elite athletes are doing FKTs right now, but not many of them are doing it beyond, I'm doing an FKT. It's nice to have an external message as well, and I just think that makes you stand out right now, before everyone starts copying you.
Well, thank you, Claire, that's very kind.
Oh, no problems. John Nyston has a question. He says they were in the lakes this last week and they met Nikki Spinks, who was on a photo shoot for Inov-8. So he would like to know, how important was your support team in setting the record? So I'm guessing by that he means like the Inov-8 guys as well behind that, because you've talked a bit about your support. Yes.
Well, yeah, massive. So actually, talking of Inov-8, so I had Paul Tierney was helping me. Nikki helped me on 2 legs. I had I think at least 3 staff members from Inov-8. I guess staff / friends to me, but they were out running with me, which was really nice. And actually, Nikki was amazing, as you might imagine. In fact, she was twice. She played a really key role. So I do I'm not as focused as Nikki or as focused as John Kelly either, I don't think. And sometimes that works to my benefit in that I'm probably quite relaxed and I'm there primarily to enjoy it. But sometimes I probably could be more focused. And if Nikki's around, she's good at pointing that out to me. So so she first joined me for that second night, which is where I was always expecting to struggle. And yeah, I mean, she shepherded me through that night when when I really, really wanted to kind of lie down and have a sleep. And maybe that would have been okay, but maybe it wouldn't have. And she, kept me going. But then I rejoined her. Sorry, she rejoined me for the last 3 hours, the last 15, 16 miles. And at that point, actually, it had all been going quite smoothly. But then that leg beforehand, it got a bit hot. I'd neglected my food a bit, a few odds and ends, but I just got a bit complacent and I'd started losing time, actually. It wasn't like I was going to not get the record, but for a long time I'd had a 3-hour buffer and that had slipped to maybe about 2.5. And that was hugely frustrating because I'd sort of just thrown that time away, really. But I told that to her that there was still a chance of a 3-hour. And then I very quickly regretted telling her that because off she went. And she absolutely kicked my butt for 3 hours. And to the extent that, I thought, I was thinking, Nikki hates me. Why does she hate me? And I did twice say to Nikki, I don't care about the 3 hours anymore. Like 2 hours 50 is just fine.
And people will round it up anyway.
yeah, exactly. But she sort of calmly said to me at one point, yeah, but regardless of the time, you just want to know you gave your all, right? You don't want to have regrets. You want to make sure, and other people will go for this run. So I want to, I don't want to have that frustration of, maybe having a lazy few hours and then someone comes along and beats me by, just a small amount, and you think, damn, so. Yeah, I do owe her. Well, I owe all the pacers huge amount of gratitude. They're all really good, really, really slick, really, really sort of professional. Which sounds weird. Obviously, none of them were professional, but very, very focused on doing a job. It wasn't just a fun run out in the hills. They would do, really conscientious with the navigation, pestering me to eat, and so on. They were brilliant, really good.
Fantastic. It's so important, isn't it, for everyone to remember that it is really a team effort. These amazing athletes, they do this thing, all the news reports, all the photos, all the being on telly, it's all them, but there's a huge crew behind the scenes, so that's really nice to hear about all of them.
Yeah.
And we've got a couple more questions before some coaching questions for you. And Conrad wants to say he's watching today in Michigan. He says, first, please say thank you to Damian for his multiple appearances and always sharing with the Wild Ginger community. So thanks.
No problem. Thank you.
Yeah. So when he wants to know, when you're attempting an FKT, how much of it is just running like what feels good at the time, and how much is dictated by your watch or your crew? You've just been talking about Nikki there. So he wants to know sort of how does it differ between running in an FKT and running in a race, like against others, for a place in the race.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think in a race, for example, you're much more likely to maybe you're more likely to misjudge things because you see someone shoot off ahead and you try and catch them up when really that pace wasn't smart, maybe. But then, that adds a lot of excitement, especially towards the end of a race where you can catch some people up, and that adds a whole element there. As opposed to running on a schedule. I'm not a big sort of spreadsheet runner. I'm not big on running to splits, really. So although I had a schedule, really the primary purpose of that schedule is to tell people roughly where I'll be so they can join me. So that was more important than the sort of split times I was suggesting. So my aim was always to kind of run on feel. If you feel good, kind of go with it without being reckless, and then when you feel bad, it's kind of just kind of hanging in there and not getting stressed about it, not panicking, not working too hard, just letting it pass, because it does always pass. So I didn't get too obsessed with the schedule. Like after a while, I knew I was about an hour up, and I was like, wow, that's great. And then not long and then suddenly I was sort of 2 hours up. At the same time, like I felt good and it was comfortable, and it was like, well, I'm not going to just back off just for the sake of it, because things were going quite well. But at the same time, also over a run that long, you're not going to get it right all the time. So I didn't beat myself up too much when you suffer for a bit and lose a bit of time. But yeah, that side of things just adds another fun element. It's knowing how to judge it. My advice would be, actually, if anyone's preparing a schedule for something like that, is, I guess, think about your own personality and what suits you. So John, for example, had a much more, I'm not saying John's aggressive, but he had a much more aggressive, a much more ambitious schedule, and that suited his mindset. And I had a lot more relaxed schedule. I just hoped to sort of gradually do better than that, and that just suited my mindset a lot more.
Yeah, that's really interesting. It is really subjective, isn't it, depending on how you are as an athlete. And it's interesting that you mentioned John there, because another John Earp, says, did you see John Kelly as competition, like either before the attempt or after his achievement? Did it influence you in any way on how you went about your attempt?
Yes and no. So it didn't. Obviously, I was totally aware he was going the week before me, and I was actually very tempted to go and help him. It was more about the COVID situation, actually, that I didn't want to, possibly pick up something there that I might bring back, partly to my family, but also onto my attempt. So if there wasn't the COVID situation, I would have gone to help him. The way he did things, it didn't change my tactics at all. I was very happy with my approach, but it helped me mentally, because he beat the record that had stood for 31 years. So he showed me it was possible, and that was actually really helpful. If he had put in some incredible run and still not got close to the record, or still not beat it, it would have been more demoralizing. It would have been like, is it possible? But because he beat it despite struggling a lot, that was actually really helpful.
So he sort of Roger Bannistered it for you with the 4-minute mile.
Yes, in a way.
Yeah. And Conrad, by the way, from the previous question, he's watching live, and he says, thank you very much for the answer, Damian. And he says it makes him feel better about not using his watch very much.
Oh yeah, great. Yeah. Don't worry too much about your watches.
Yeah. And I just wondered, were you in a lot of pain for any time during the race? Did you have highs and lows? How did you get through those things?
Yeah, no, I wouldn't say I was in pain at all. Pain, I mean, I try not to even use that word, because I try to use, discomfort. But really, I think that you've got to see pain as information. It's easy to think, oh, I'm in pain, and get a bit self-pitying. Now, of course, my legs, hurt a bit and were a bit grumpy, and yeah, my big toe, because I kicked a rock once or twice, my big toe got a bit hurty towards the end, but I didn't have blisters or anything. I didn't have anything significant. A tiny bit of tendonitis, I suppose, but all those things are quite familiar to me, and I didn't really have, I definitely didn't have pain. Of course, it was getting uncomfortable. More so, it's just this huge amount of tiredness you build up, and you just really want to sit down for a long time or lie down, and you don't really want to carry on running. I suppose that's the thing you have to fight, and that gets harder and harder. How did I deal with it? I suppose partly the motivational stuff, where you just remind yourself why you're doing it. Partly you got your pacers running well around you, and they're dragging you along in a way. The other trick is low mood, eat food. Sometimes it's just you haven't put enough calories in, so that's actually the first thing I always do if I feel negative and in any way. Just eat something that changes everything. So I guess those three things really. That's what would pull me through.
And did you have any hallucinations as part of that sleep deprivation?
No, sorry. I know it always makes a better story if there's some wild hallucinations, but
you just make some up for us.
There were pixies and unicorns everywhere.
Wonderful.
I rode on a unicorn all the way.
Fantastic. But Chloe wants to know, well, she says congrats, and she also wants to know what your recovery is, because she says after an ultra she's always really eager to get back out running, so she's not really sure what's best, so she wants to copy what you do.
Well, yeah, I won't try to run for a week. I like ideally to wait till I get that message from my body that it wants to go running, and it does come. You do suddenly feel sort of fresh and a bit impatient, and ideally you wait for that to happen, which hopefully is about a week after something this big. The number one thing, there's a brilliant book called I think it's called Good to Go. Have you read that one? By a female American journalist, and she goes through all the sort of different recovery options, ice baths, protein shakes, compression wear, all those sorts of options, and pretty much kind of rubbishes all of them, except for sleep. And it sounds obvious, I suppose, but probably, the number one thing you can do is sleep. I mean, obviously, some extra protein intake is smart. And if you have got some inflammation, it could be worth dealing with, although I'm never totally sure on that. But I would just relax, eat and drink really, and don't try and push it. Just relax, because almost the worst thing you can do is get out the door too soon again and start running when your body's not ready. So sleep and eat.
Sleep and Eat. Yeah, I've just found that book as well. Good to Go: How to Eat, Sleep and Rest Like a Champion by Christy Ashwanden. I'll put the details of that in the thing below on the podcast or on the YouTube. Yep. Yeah, that looks good. Really good. I like that. I like sleeping. I like eating. Sounds perfect to me. Just need to do some running first. Cool. So we've got a couple of questions just about coaching type things, because you are a coach. Look Damian up online if you fancy getting a coach to get you out of a plateau. But Paul just wants a sneak preview of the advice from you, Damian. He says, what's the one bit of advice you would give to a marathon runner who wants to convert to ultra running?
Yeah, pretty much kind of ditch the watch would be my advice. I don't mean that literally, but I mean it in terms of, so often road runners who come to trail running, they want to know what's a good pace for an ultra marathon, and really it's kind of irrelevant, because usually there are hills involved, for example, and there might be loads of hills in one bit of the course and not the rest of the course, or and then you've got the weather, and those hills might be muddy one week and not muddy the next week. So you've got a lot of variables, and then you've got your eating as well, your fueling, which is going to affect your energy, and you're likely to be out there when it comes to race day. Instead of kind of 3 or 4 hours in the marathon, it could be 8 to 12 to 20 hours. So your fueling is going to be really important, but it will be like that, and your energy will go like that, and your emotions will go like that as well. So my number one thing would be stop worrying about split times or paces, and just think more about simply enjoying it, or moving up a hill well, and don't be afraid to power hike up that hill. It's a good long-term tactic, but above all, it's to me it's much more enjoyable than running on roads, and it can actually be less painful on the body, actually, depending on the distance. But of course 100 miles is going to bash you up a bit, but something like 30 miles on the trails, your body's actually moving a lot differently to when it's on the road. It's the same impact every single time. The ankles, knees and hips, repetitive impact, exactly the same way, time and time again. Whereas on the trails, it's going to be different each time, different level of terrain, and different footfall and stuff, and that's actually kind of less painful overall, even if you're out for more hours. So that's another thing to think about and sort of enjoy.
Yeah, definitely. And Paul is actually watching live, and he says, "I've learned so much already from this live chat. Thank you." And he does. You were talking about hills just there as well. He also wanted to know something about hills. He wants to know. He's training for a 50k ultra. He wants to know how much hill work should he put in his training program.
Well, I would, even if you're training for a flat race, I'd still put some hill work in, because it can help with strength and with speed. So, but something I do a lot is hill strides. So it's just 30 seconds, and you might do maybe four times 30 seconds, and in the second half of maybe a fairly easy run. And you're not looking for a hill kind of like that or anything, but a very runnable hill, something fairly. I think the optimum is actually like 4 to 6% gradient, so there's not much. Should be pretty runnable, and just get in the habit of doing 30-second strides. So sprints, but not absolutely, eyeballs out. And that should over time improve your strength and your running economy and your speed. So I would do a bunch of them, regularly, like once a week. It shouldn't be too exhausting either. But then as you get closer to race day, an absolute killer session is 5 times 3-minute hills. Now 3 minutes is kind of a magic number, because if you work really hard for 3 minutes, that really gets right into you, basically. I won't try and describe the science exactly, but yeah, 3 minutes is the time. So yeah, work really hard for 3 minutes up a hill, and again, not like that, sort of a runnable hill. Recover properly, and go again. But also, if all's well, do that, and then give yourself a little bit of recovery, and then do a sort of 10 or 15 minute kind of tempo run afterwards. And that'll get you ready for race day. Save that for maybe the week before. That's a killer session, that one.
Sounds good. Well, there you go, Paul. A sneak preview of coaching by Mr. Damian Hall here. So yeah, I think you'll have at least how many people are watching? 76 people are watching live. So well, I'm expecting 76 sign-ups for your coaching. So better get busy. Oh, right. Yes, Chloe, who is also watching right now, she says, thank you for the book tip. That's great. She says, congratulations, Damian. What an inspiration you are to others. Especially, I would say, my son has been dot watching avidly, and he wants to know how young is too young to start ultra running. He is 18, chomping on the bit. I have told him it will slow his pace down, but it's not put him off.
Oh gosh, well, thank you very much, Chloe. That's very kind. That is a tough question. I must admit, I don't feel qualified, if I'm honest, to give advice to. I know 18 is not a child; that's an adult. But I must admit, I'd rather give no advice than bad advice there. If she drops me a line, sort of privately, which hopefully via Claire, I know someone a lot more informed, someone in British athletics who's a lot more informed on kind of youth development or teenage development, who I can ask for Chloe.
Oh, that's really kind of you. I always thought just if you're younger, then just don't push it too far too soon, as a general rule of thumb. But it must be so hard for all these youngsters watching what all the older people are doing and going, oh, why can't I do that right now? But yeah, maybe just do some hill walking, long distance hill walking. Like when I was 12, I did a 50-mile walk, and wow. I'm not dead, so yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. In my teens, I was doing 50-mile walks, and that's I suppose that gives you a good basis for ultra running. So he could start with the walking, it was called the Tour de Triggs, the 50-mile walk that we did.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Like a scouting thing. So maybe he could start with stuff like that.
Yes. I just don't want to. It kind of might be fine. I just would hate to. Give the wrong advice there, and it is tricky. But he's got loads of time, because I didn't discover this sport till my mid-30s. You've got lots and lots of time to do all sorts of running, so there's kind of in a way no rush to go into the longer stuff, which can be a bit more tough on the body. But yeah, if she drops me a line, I can get a better answer for her.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, brilliant. I'll be in touch, Chloe. We've just got 2 more questions. And the last question is going to be the Barkley Marathons question for everybody who's watching. And I just want to say the people who have been sending in these questions are my patrons. It's www.patreon.com/wildgingerrunning. So these are the guys who are loyal and support me every month on the Wild Ginger Running YouTube channel, which is also a podcast on all usual podcast providers. So if you do want your question to be definitely answered by our wonderful experts such as Damian, then you have to support me on Patreon. That's the catch. So without further ado, the last 2 Patreon questions. One is Nick Souville. He says, is Damian considering on taking on another FKT in the future? So fresh from this one, what's next?
Yeah, I'm being asked this a bit already, and I honestly don't have anything quite in my sort of immediate sights. I just wanted to recover from this, and also it's confusing really whether there'll be any races on this autumn. I do have a place at the Ultra Trail Snowdonia, but again that seems a little up in the air whether that's going to happen. So I guess I'm just waiting to see. But with these things, yeah, you do have to wait till, well, not wait, but you do have to really care about it. There's no point in just sort of picking something random. If you're going to sort of suffer for a day or so, it's got to be something quite personal to you, I think. So such as the Pennine Way was the classic case. I had that long history with it. So I guess I'm just waiting. I'll maybe start doing a bit more internet digging around, but we'll see what friends suggest. But yeah, nothing in the pipeline, but there'll definitely be more of that sort of thing for sure. Yeah,
it sounds like it's right up your street, and I can't wait to see what you do next. I really encourage everyone, if you don't already, follow Damian on Instagram. His posts are really funny to read as well.
Oh, thank you.
And then we've just got time for one final question, which is Sally Gilson. She says, I highly recommend Damian to everyone if they're wanting help putting a training plan together. Definitely worth the money. So there you go.
Oh, thank you, Sally. I think I need to email Sally back, actually. I think I've got an email from her from this week that I haven't got back to yet. Sorry, Sally. I will get back to you very soon.
Brilliant. There you go. And she says, I see on Instagram that John Kelly has thrown down the gauntlet and challenged him to a duel on his own territory. Will he follow in Nikki Spink's footsteps and take on the Barkley Marathons? This is the $1 million question, Damian. Do you fancy it?
You know what? John has sent me a message today, actually, a private message saying, "Oh, I didn't mean that to be a gauntlet thing." The Barkley has intrigued me for a long time, as it has a lot of runners. So it's definitely something I'm interested in. A bit like, I guess, the Pennine Way, I keep putting it off because it intimidates me. But I guess with the Pennine Way out of the way, I suppose it's getting closer. Of course, you've got to, getting in is part of the challenge, and it's getting so popular. So it may be that I would love to do it, and I can't get in. Who knows? But yeah, I think I'm close. I'm close to applying, whether it's next year or the year after. I think it's getting time, isn't it? My navigation isn't brilliant, but hopefully John and or Nikki would help me brief me well there, if they're allowed to. I'm not sure exactly of the rules. They might not be allowed to, but yeah, I think in the next 2 years I will apply.
Yeah, wow. Okay, so you heard it here first. Damian's going to try to apply for the Barkley in 2 years, or maybe even this year. Wow. That's really exciting. I think it's so exciting watching people do these bonkers races. And Sally is watching live, and she says you have already replied to her email, so you don't need to worry about that one.
Oh, good. Phew. Thanks, Sally.
Brilliant. Well, I just want to say a massive thank you, Damian, for coming onto the show and giving us so much of your time to answer all those questions about the Pennine Way FKT, and also some coaching questions as well. And I just I want to put up your website again. Where did it go? Oh no, I've lost it now.
Don't worry, people can find me easily enough, I think, and yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, follow Damian on everything possible. He tweets, he Instagrams, he is a proper, because he is a journalist, so you know all the stuff.
I'm pretty annoying.
No, it's really fun watching your posts and what you do, and I just want to read you some nice things from people. Repat Digital says, the Barclays invite only. I'm sure you have earned a look from Laz. So that's positive. A guy says, thank you for answering my questions. You are so inspirational and a great ambassador. All the best for your future endeavours.
Well, thank you.
And John says, what a great chat this has been. Very interesting, informative, inspiring. Thanks. Enjoy the glass of wine. It is well deserved.
Thank you.
And Sally Gilson said it's so exciting about the Barclay Marathons as well. Conrad says, thanks for all your time and responses to the question. Enjoy your time off the feet, from Conrad there. So that's fantastic. Yeah, so thanks so much, Damian. Is there anything else you wanted to say to everyone before we end the chat?
No, I can't think of anything in particular other than just thank you all for being such a lovely crowd. And I don't know, people are incredibly kind to me on social media and you know, and at races and I haven't really mentioned that when I was doing this FKT, people were turning out in the villages and the towns on the way, especially towards the end. I just feel incredibly fortunate that people are so generous and so kind. So thank you everyone.
Fantastic. Well, it's been great to chat to you, and we'll look out for whatever you attempt next.
Thanks.
Cool. So night everyone, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week. Bye.
Mm-hmm.